My name is Martin Palouš. I used to be also director of Václav Havel Library, and actually in this capacity participated in the work of selection panel for this prize some times ago. Now I'm active in the United States, teaching at one American university. I was given a difficult task to have a final word here, which means that I had no chance to prepare anything in advance, because I'm supposed somewhat to reflect on or to react to what has been said here during the day. Very difficult, very interesting, but I will start, as I should, really to congratulate in depth of my heart to the winner of this year's prize, Vladimír Kara-Murza, and to thank Eugenia for her really excellent presentation. And I will be, Vladimír, little direct to you. I think that your wife was better representative here for your cause than you would be able to do yourself. Why? Because I think Eugenia brought us something very important, that there is a real essential relationship between public and private. We all, us, have some family relations. We all do need to care about our loved ones at home. And then if we are also men or human beings of the world, we are taking care about some other things, and Vladimír is an excellent example of a person like that. For me, it also has a personal dimension, because I know Vladimír pretty well. He was with us in our university several times. Actually, he was on the list of my speakers in my class in the spring of this year. And instead of Vladimír, I learned about his ordeal, and then I got an email from Eugenia when she apologized him for not being able to make it. Vladimír Kara-Murza, for me, is a person who brings together two things that are going very often apart in our current world. This is integrity and unity between thoughts and actions, between what you do inside of yourself just to be in unity with yourself, and what do you do with other people. When I met him for the first time, it was a little bit, I would say, I felt guilty seeing him, because for Czechs of my generation, the experience of '68, I think, is setting basics for the relationship or perception of the Russian world. But obviously, these magnificent seven from '68 were mentioned here today. We can think also about Sakharov, nuclear physician, but very important physics, but very important person in the human rights movement in Russia. And obviously, Vladimír, as a great associate of Boris Nemtsov, is one of them. And I think that it is for us a commitment that Russia and Europe, big book of Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk from the beginning of the 20th century, is an essential question for us. Then, obviously, I need also to mention and congratulate two other finalists. It's very interesting that, and we had this problem when we were discussing who should win in our selection body. Individuals versus groups, individuals versus associations. If individuals can bring this element Vladimír so nicely represents, I think associations remind us that we always are operating in human plurality with other people, that we are not able of an action if we don't take this fact into consideration. Both cases, Ukrainian and Hungarian, they were bringing us different questions, different perspectives, but I'm deeply convinced that both have same common denominator. That's about people who know that their freedom is freedom to participate in the things in this world, to bring in their specific perspective, and to make experience with that. Without these intermediary bodies, I think our world would be much worse place. And if we can have hope today, because there are a lot of concerns, that we owe that gratitude to people who have a courage and energy and time to do what you gentlemen, your colleagues, are doing. So thank you very much for that. Two quick comments to the next two panels. The one which opened a very important topic, individual criminal responsibility under international law, I think brings in very importantly historical perspective. We need to be aware that these beginnings of this discussion started in the context of the First World War, in the beginning of the 20th century, when League of Nations was created and the world was to be made safe for democracy, as it was said by Woodrow Wilson. But it turned out that League of Nations and all institutions created under this moment were not strong enough to make these dreams reality. Then the Second World War and the United Nations system, as a reaction to horrors of that conflict, and also a new round of debate on individual criminal responsibility, London Statutes that created Nuremberg trial, and we can go on and on. So I think that now we are standing before quite unpleasant question. When I was United Nations, the debate on reform of the UN was ongoing on and on. The question is, aren't we in a situation that this conflict that we see around or are part of really cannot be resolved by reform processes, but by new beginnings? I was in New York 2 weeks ago talking with people there. As you know, as we speak today, there is a debate at General Assembly right now, and I guess that the vote will come only tomorrow. Watch it, because we will find out how many countries will be voting for the resolution criticizing the Russian actions, Russian recent actions, and how we are standing in the world, who is on the side of spirit of the UN and democracies, and who is on the other side. I already mentioned the problem of relationship between human rights law and humanitarian law. Some sort of amalgamation is taking place, and people are talking about that. Obviously, institutional framework is extremely important. And then it was very important that this legal discussion was not only a legal discussion, that Bishop Holub and other speakers were reminding us that law is not in vacuum, that the debate or thinking about justice has some other dimensions, that we can go to the sphere of morality, existential questions, and the world of individuals. And Bishop Holub, because he's a priest, he knows a lot about the topic. Then was the theme of the last panel, evil. When evil comes into this world. I will tell you, this is an old joke. The question theologians long time ago were trying to ask was the following one. What did the God do before creating the world? And the answer was he was creating hell for those who ask these questions. And it sounds like a joke, but it's real, that where the evil has come to this world. We can come up with all sorts of ideas, but the question itself is extremely important. And when I was listening to that, I was just thinking about a person who I really admire as a thinker, female Hannah Arendt, who had this question, and she was observing the trial of one of the greatest, biggest criminal of the Second World War, Adolf Eichmann, who was responsible in ways as a bureaucrat for the death of 6 million individuals. And when she was observing him, she was, I would say, troubled by the fact that he was not looking like a demoniac person. He was a bureaucrat. He was someone who didn't have capacity to think, who was able to replace all ideas by phrases, by something that helped him to operate and to participate in this horrible machinery. Hannah Arendt, when she was asked by a reporter journalist of German radio in the 60s, how did she feel as a Jewish young person in 1933 when Hitler got to power? And her answer was interesting. She said, you know, it was not what our enemies did, what was surprising for us. We already knew what they were up to. What was surprising was what our friends did. How quickly they just got coordinated themselves with that situation. That they could exist, I would say, closed in their own small world and not registering what is going on around themselves. So I think that this conference and all these people here have a capacity to shake us up, to increase our capacity for self-understanding. It's sometimes very easy to criticize others. Much more important is to raise questions that are relevant for ourselves and that can help us to continue in this conversation. So that's all from me. Now I was asked to invite you for a glass of wine. I think that it's going to be served in the back. And let's continue in this conversation. And let's hope that the next year, Vladimir will be able to join Eugenia and that this conversation will continue. So thank you very much.